Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Issues and Updates on May 21st, 2024. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Would you please convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
This is request for consent agenda for the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Resident Housing Commissioner Leenstra is not online. If she joins in the next few seconds, I'll let you know. Request for consent agenda, item 1, approval of a resolution 1987 acknowledging the fiscal year 2023 audit findings and approving the plan of corrective action to address the findings in accordance with ORS 297-.466. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services, Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. You heard about this last week, but this is a formal consent agenda now to address that. But please give her a quick refresh.
Okay. The Housing Authority of Clackamas County transitioned from an outdated HAB system to a new web-based Yardi system. The process took longer than anticipated due to inconsistencies in structure and in the need for extensive hand corrections to improve data integrity. To ensure that the financial reports were accurate and that the data in Yardi was reliable, Housing Authority requested an extension. Auditors identified monthly reconciliation delays and additional reporting time as the main issues. Despite these challenges, we met extended deadlines without being considered out of compliance. Auditors found no additional findings. After successfully transferring all data to the new Yardi system, we were confident that there would be no need for any reporting extensions for fiscal year 2024. The resolution acknowledges the audit and approves a plan to address audit findings, including root cause identification, impact assessment, and corrective action plan. The approved plan must be filed with the Secretary of State within 30 days of audit completion. And I could give you the 7 action items if you would like to hear those.
It's up to the board. I think we were all given the audit report, correct? So this resolution is signed by me, the chair. But I don't implement this stuff. It's the staff that implements. It's the staff that messed this up to begin with. Right, Rod?
Yes.
Okay, staff, you better get on it. Ever since I've been chair of this board, we have been late on the audits. And the fact that the other counties are late too is our excuse that somehow it's okay. But budget reconciliation is very important. We have implemented a chart of accounts. We have implemented month-end reconciliations, and no department and no elected official in this county will deviate from that. And I'm not speaking to you two, I'm speaking to this world out here that hopefully they're listening. And it's been the audit at the Housing Authority and probably a past employee who has messed this up and has thrown the entire county audit into arrears, and I don't like it. And one of the responsibilities I have as chair is to sign this. But by golly, people, you better get it together and keep on track to get this done. Now, Elizabeth, you explained to me what this meant. We have these findings, and I asked once, okay, we have the findings. What are you doing about it? Well, these are the findings, and then we have corrective measures going forward. So we don't correct what's happened in the past necessarily. We correct, we find this, and we move forward. Is that correct? Would you speak to this?
That is correct. So these are actions that occurred in the past. They're asked to be addressed to correct so we don't have trends. And fortunately, our findings have been unique, so we don't have patterns. And this is not a pattern of a finding with HAC or with the county. So we are learning from our mistakes, and we're continuing to improve.
You say we're learning from our mistakes, but if not everybody agrees to do this, then that's a problem. Gary, it needs to be rectified.
And that's my responsibility to do that, and I'm accountable to the board to do that.
Thank you. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yeah, good morning. On your plan of action, it lists all the actions you're going to take to correct this, but what's the timetable for completing those actions?
Most of the actions are immediate. It's really, the process is done now. The transfer of information to the new system is done. So all the issues of translating the data that was put in, all that's the process is done. So now it's just about overseeing that everything continues to move forward.
And Mr. Cook, does H3S have a training plan regarding this for the future?
The finance staff for HAC will be trained on, they're continually being trained on the Yardi system. We're bringing in some additional staff in to continue that process ongoing. So yes, and then what we're doing overall for the department is we have them come into us quarterly and report on what their status is with their budget. And so this is one of the questions we'll be adding to that process in terms of where are you with our Yardi, where are you with your reports? You know, this whole thing of being delinquent on reports, even if it's a day or whatever, we're trying to nip that in the bud and make sure that's not happening or recurring.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Gary?
We will make sure this doesn't happen again.
And this is on consent agenda for
This is
Thursday.
consent agenda for Thursday.
Thank you very much for all your hard work on this. I know you both have worked diligently for a very long time on this, and I am appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Chair, would you please convene as the Water Environment Services Board of Directors?
I will recess as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County and convene as a Water Environment Services.
You're now meeting as Water Environment Services. This is request for consent agenda. Item 1, approval of an amendment to a contract with Jacobs Engineering Group for sanitary sewer master plan consulting and to add the Richardson Creek Basin and the county village area in Oregon City to the sanitary sewer master plan. The amendment value is $173,125. Total contract value is now increased to $472,761. Funding through Water Environment Services Sanitary Sewer Operating Funds. No county general funds are involved. Greg Geist, Director of Water Environment Services. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. As the staff report says, in 2019, we completed a sanitary system master plan for our service area and beyond, but that's a kind of a planning level document. It tells us what the flows are going to be at build-out, essentially. And so when we're upsizing pipes further down in the system, we know how big to make them. But the more detailed engineering, where the pipe is actually going to be, how we're going to serve that area specifically, where a pump station should be placed, that's a different thing. And so for the Richardson Creek area, which is north of Carver, it's now included in the Pleasant Valley Carver comprehensive plan for Happy Valley. And so we want to take a look, and there's interest in developing out there, so it's time to get that more detailed plan to serve the area.
Okay. Questions or comments from commissioners on this?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Sure.
So, Greg, the Country Village, we're referring to that trailer park, the nice one, south of the Oregon City Shopping Center, south of that new apartment development that's taking place there, right? Is that what we're talking about?
I believe so. I know that it's north of the DTD's new transportation maintenance facility, and then it's kind of an obscure area of our collection system.
Right. I said south. It's actually north
Yeah.
of the shopping center. So,
Yeah.
and downstream of that is the creek and all that. So that's currently a septic system?
No, I mean, well, some of it is, yeah. We serve a portion of that area. There's a pipe that kind of runs down towards Redland Road from there to the north of 213, and then connects to our system and goes to the Tri-City facility. But it
So-
really is for that, at this point, for that mobile home park. Yeah.
Right. And that's a really nice mobile home park, and I know that it changed hands here a couple years ago. So are they paying SDCs to hook up? What's their investment in this hookup?
I don't know, I'd have to look into that. I mean, it's already being served. We're just looking at that area, we will expand. That's within the UGB, same way, the way we need to look at Richardson Creek. And like I said, this is kind of an obscure area of our collection system. And I can follow up with staff, but I think it was just something that they identified, hey, this could develop, we should take a look at it.
Okay, so the other thing, I guess, you can maybe get back to me on, I don't want to belabor this, but I am curious as to, because this is really more of Oregon City's who owns their lines. They're a wholesale account, so to speak, not a retail account.
Yep.
So it would seem to me that expense or extension to serve their properties would be something that the city would do on their dime.
Well, downstream of that, that's a conversation that, yeah, we maybe need to have. But it always has been Wes's system there from when the district was formed. So I'd have to look and figure out how, what's going to be in the city and what they're going to own and operate versus what will continue to be Wes.
Yeah, and then the other thing you can get back to me on, just close with this, and that is that if they respect that, that's fine. If they purchase it or acquire our system, our investment, I hope that there's a buy-in, buyout, because, having a retail customer for Wes is far beneficial for the district than having it at a wholesale level, right?
Depends on how much it costs to maintain the retail system, but generally, yes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
we're making,
it's a small sliver of retail that Wes has within the Tri-City Service District. And it's been that way since the district was formed, but yeah. It's a very small number of customers.
okay, we should have a conversation afterwards, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? See no objections, thank you.
Chair, would you please convene as the Clackamas County Development Agency Board of Directors?
I will recess as the Water and Environment Service District and convene as the Clackamas County Development Agency.
This is request for consent agenda for the Clackamas County Development Agency. Item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas River Water relating to the Southeast Monroe Street Improvement Project. Total value is a maximum of approximately $1,426,616. Funding through Clackamas River Water. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. The Development Agency is nearing completion of a design project known as the Monroe Street Improvement Project. This project is a redesign of the Monroe Street corridor from Linwood Avenue to Fuller Road, Southeast 72nd Avenue between Monroe and Thompson, around the Lot Wickham School area, just to give you kind of a geographic reference about where this project's at. With every project we do, there's coordination with utilities. We try to design these projects in a way to minimize our conflict with these utilities, but in some instances, they have to relocate. Clackamas River Water has asked that they partner with us and basically cover the cost to move needed utilities they have in that area. Essentially, this IGA would be between the Development Agency and Clackamas River Water. They would pay all costs associated with moving their utilities, number one, and in addition, there's an administrative cost on top of that as well. But essentially, we would coordinate that work and take responsibility for that work, design, and construction as a part of our construction contract. But this would make the agency whole for that work. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing no objections, thank you, Dan.
Chair, would you please reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will recess as a development agency and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners.
Next is consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. First, Finance Department. Item 1, approval of a resolution acknowledging the fiscal year 2023 audit findings and approving the plan of corrective action to address the findings in accordance with ORS 297.466. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. This is a companion piece to what you already heard. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. And earlier you heard this under the Housing Authority presentation for consent agenda of a finding and a resolution. This time it is for Clackamas County. We include all 8 component units into our comprehensive annual finance report for Clackamas County, including the Housing Authority's audit. And due to a finding within one of the component units, it then also becomes a finding separately for Clackamas County, which we also need to do a resolution and an action plan that we send to the state as well. So that is before you today.
Questions or comments for the presenters on this? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Next, Clackamas County 911 CCOM. Item 1, approval to apply for congressionally directed spending grant award to fund Clackamas 911 Enhanced Incident Response Projects. Grant value is $750,000 for 3 years with a $250,000 match through Clackamas 911 member agencies. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. No county general funds are involved. Cheryl Bledsoe, Director of CCOM. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I'm here before you today to ask your permission to apply for congressionally directed funding. You approved a list of projects back in February of 2023, which outlined a number of projects for the county. One of those was to direct some funding towards our facility over at Clackamas 911 in 3 different specific areas. One is to improve the respite areas. Right now, currently, we have 1 quiet room that serves a staff of over 50 employees. We are aiming to increase that by 4 and intentionally make that a nursing mothers, make it appropriate so it would be able to serve nursing mothers, as well as to provide some intentional sleeping quarters. We currently, during any winter storm or expanded event, stay overnight in the administrative offices. We set up cots, and we are hoping to turn what used to be the amateur radio shack behind our facility into some more intentional sleeping quarters for my employees. Additionally, we are going to address evacuation, both preparing ourselves to evacuate more readily, as we did in 2020 for the wildfires, through the acquisition of an evacuation trailer, which would allow us to rack and stack all of the 911 equipment and be able to relocate elsewhere for services, as well as improve the ability of other 911 centers to evacuate into Clackamas if the need arose for their centers. And finally, we're going to address enhancing the ability for our emergency management liaisons, emergency management, fire, and law enforcement, who convene inside our facility in the first few hours after any expanding incident. So we're aiming to improve situation awareness through better monitoring, better lighting, and the ability for them to manage any expanding incident in the first 5 to 10 hours before a movement to the larger EOC becomes necessary. So the application is due this Friday, and we're asking your permission to apply for these funds this week if we can.
Questions from commissioners? Seeing no objections, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Clackamas County Fair Board for project management and funding of the new Fairground and Event Center multi-use building. Agreement value is $5,077,777. Funding is through county-allocated ARPA funds and Business Oregon grant funds. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, go ahead, please.
We're building more stuff. I am here and I am pleased to share with you the fact that there was an IGA before you for consideration and a partnership with the Clackamas County Fair Board. Essentially, they are looking to construct a new fairground and event center multi-use building at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds. There's been a lot of discussion around this. The board's very familiar with this project. I'm pleased to present this IGA to you today, which basically memorializes the transfer and conveyance of certain ARPA funds that will be realized with the construction of this facility. It's been executed by the Fair Board Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. You'll see in the IGA, it calls out kind of roles and responsibilities. It also calls out partnerships and opportunities. As many of you know, through the various events that we have had, the Clackamas County Fairgrounds is a stable facility, a known facility that they stand up in case of emergencies or events. They've been a very great partner, the Fair Board and their employees as well. This facility will allow additional opportunities in the event of an emergency, and it's been designed and will be built in that manner. So I'd be happy to answer your questions you might have.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas?
I'm just curious if anyone knows if they were able to fill the funding gap on their end. Remember, there was a gap?
Yeah.
I can talk about that. They're prepared to go for a loan at the bank, and I
Okay.
believe it's about $2 million. I believe also the foundation, the board has a foundation. They're trying to raise monies privately as well. But with their income stream, their executive director thinks it's not a problem being able to make the payments on the funding gap.
Okay.
That's the last I heard. Is that what you think?
That is correct. If you look on page 1 of the report, on the very bottom, it says there's a line of credit up to, and that essentially filled that gap that was out there. Yep.
Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, Mr. Johnson, this $13,800,000 is for the barn and for other associated construction, correct? Not just for the barn?
What, water lines?
It's a supporting facilities to the barn,
Yeah,
correct? Yeah,
okay.
so there's other infrastructure that has to be built
Yeah.
to realize the structure considered for the multi-use facility, correct?
Got it, okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Commissioner Schrader?
I just want to mention, ask that this is not just fair-related, this is also an area where we do emergency management location.
Correct.
And that's because it's got a centralized location for our rural areas. And as well as we need to, should we have other incidents like wildfires, we not only have to evacuate people, we have to evacuate livestock. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Yep.
It's multi-used.
By the way, this IGA was a long time coming. We met some road bumps along the way, had to clear those out. I have been working with the Fair Board. They've been very good on this and trying to keep it on track despite a deviation. But thank you, Dan, for bringing this forward. See no objections.
Thank you.
Next, disaster management, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas Community College for a repair of sidewalk damage during operation of the warming shelter in January. Total value is $200,000. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Where is Daniel? He was here. Okay, I'll do it. We had a warming center in January. Part of the agreement we had with any facility we use off campus is if there's any damage done, we'll pay for it. And there was some minor damage done to a sidewalk there during the storm. It's reasonable. We have the money to pay for it. It's going to come from Supportive Housing Service Measure Funds because it's allowed. So we're just meeting our commitment to Clackamas Community College for allowing us to use their site during the warming center. Seeking your approval to put this on the consent agenda.
Is that it?
That's it.
Is that it? Commissioner West, you're up.
Gary told me it's reasonable, but I don't know how much sidewalks cost to repair, but it's a $200,000 bill. Is it a lot of sidewalk? What are we talking about here?
All right, so Adam Brown actually can assist here. Thank you, Adam Brown, Deputy Director, Health, Housing, Human Services.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Good morning, everyone. Adam Brown, Deputy Director, Health, Housing, and Human Services. So I've been supporting Daniel with this. He and I worked really closely during the severe weather event to stand up this shelter at Clackamas Community College. So this is an unfortunate situation. They have a really beautiful stretch of sidewalk that goes from the main road back to the building we were using. It's really unclear how the sidewalk became damaged. There's a bunch of pocking in it after the snow cleared. There was pocking and sort of some broken down concrete pieces. We don't know whether it was a member of our search and rescue squad that had chains that drove over that, if it's the result of de-icer. We're just trying to be really good partners to make good on this as part of the facility use agreement. Super unfortunate. The county is pursuing FEMA reimbursement for activities that were, damage that occurred during the storm. We're going to put this on the list, in which case we would only have to cover 25% of the cost because FEMA covers 75%. Your question, Commissioner, was how much? It's a pretty extensive stretch of beautiful sidewalk. I mean, when I saw the pictures, I thought, oh, dang, that's going to be costly to replace it. And it turns out it is.
Okay, that's a great explanation. Thank you.
Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam, for the assist. Appreciated. Next, Health, Housing, Human Services, item 1, approval of a revenue agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for operations of the Mount Hood Express. Agreement value is $500,000 for 2 years. Funding is through statewide transportation improvement funds. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. Go ahead, please.
Good morning again, Commissioners. In 2022, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services approved a waiver application from the state of Oregon allowing $1 billion in federal funds for low-income households for health-related social needs. I think I'm reading the wrong document. Yeah, you're doing Mount Hood, right? I'm sorry. Let me start over.
That's all right.
The Mount Hood Express is a 7-day commuter service between the city of Sandy and Timberline Lodge, with planned stops at Welch's, Rhododendron, Government Camp, and Timberline Lodge. These funds would allow for continued service on the Mount Hood Express. Approximately 70,000 rides will occur through this grant.
Any questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 2, approval to apply for a grant from Health Share for Community Capacity Building Funds to implement the Medicare Section 1115 Demonstration Waiver Housing Support Benefit in Clackamas County. Anticipated grant value is $1,600,000 for 18 months. Funding is through a federal grant. No county general funds are involved.
Okay, so this is the correct one. In 2022, the Center for Medicaid Services approved a waiver application from the state of Oregon allowing $1 billion in federal funds for low-income households for health-related social needs. The funds will be used to prevent evictions and provide housing stability for those with significant medical and financial needs in Clackamas County, Oregon, aiming to reduce the number of homeless individuals each year by ensuring the counties provides necessary services and support. The federally approved waiver includes capacity building, startup funds, and billing opportunities, potentially generating revenue within the county.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 3, approval to apply for a grant with the Federal Health Resources and Services Administration for behavioral health service expansion. Total possible value is $1,100,000 for 2 years. Funding through Health Resources and Services Administration. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, as the primary healthcare entry point, the health center is a crucial platform for providing comprehensive behavioral health services, including treatment and recovery support, to address the growing demand for these services among underserved populations. The program aims to enhance access to behavioral health services by aiding health centers in initiating or expanding mental health and substance abuse disorder services.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you. That is the consent agenda list. All of these items will be on this Thursday's business meeting for your final action. Next, County 2023 Audit Update. So Rod, you may stay. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services, Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. I'm sorry, Commissioners, this is another finding, a different finding that we caught at the end of the audit. This is not what you've already talked about today. This is a new one. Elizabeth and Rod will explain, and there was a memo in your packet. Go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. The Health, Housing, and Human Services Department of Clackamas County is informing the Board of County Commissioners of an audit finding in Clackamas County's fiscal year 2022-2023 audit that was completed by Moss Adams LLP. Staff would like the board to approve a plan of corrective action to address the findings. Background, during the fiscal year of 2023 audit, it was found that there was a significant deficiency in internal control over compliance. The significant deficiency was related to a late submission of 3 SF 425 federal financial reports for the Health Centers Program Cluster. Health Centers has a history of timely submission of their federal reports. However, these reports were filed after the deadline. The Health, Housing, and Human Services Department has prepared a plan of action that will address the issues identified. Please find our response and proposed corrective action plan below. I'll read those for you. So the identification of the root cause was our analysis of the root cause indicates the delay in submission was due to a lack of comprehensive inventory of grants and reporting deadlines. Data and reconciliation is not a contributing factor as Health Centers pulls timely and accurate data and reconciles all grants monthly. Grant reconciliations are reviewed with program managers regularly. Impact assessment, we recognize that not meeting reporting requirements can have negative effects on current and future funding opportunities, such as a loss of funding. It is important that we address these issues promptly to avoid any negative outcomes. Corrective action plan is 1, compiling a comprehensive inventory of grants and reporting deadlines. 2, timely reporting of the status of reporting and tracking extensions. 3, obtain copies of all grant reports and documentation of extensions. And 4, report status of pending and or delinquent reports due to funding sources at quarterly finance performance Clackamas check-in meetings with the Health, Housing, and Human Services Director's Office.
Thank you for that. And our health clinics do work really hard. I know that. And there's a theme here today regarding the audit findings. Let it be noted that we have discovered deficiencies and we are fixing them based on our yearly audits. We audit constantly at Clackamas County. And if there's something wrong, we fix it. And that's what we expect, right?
Yes.
That's what we expect all departments to comply with the results of the audit, fix it, move forward, because we are all human. People make errors. We're moving fast and furious. You know, too bad we didn't have a little dinger on our computer saying, this grant application is due in 3 days, but we don't. Okay, Adam, you might want to get on that. And then maybe, but there's not a system that exists like that. So we depend on humans to make these judgments. We do fairly good on it. I would say 98, 99% of the time we're on that. But my message again is, when we find audit results and findings and corrective action, they will be corrected. Thank you. Commissioner West.
Yeah, Adam. A couple questions. Just, I think it's important for the public to know it's a significant deficiency on the hierarchy of the terms that we deal with. Where does this rank in severity?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Good question. So we have a significant deficiency of internal controls, which means that we could have checked this with internal controls, and this could have been discovered if we'd had an inventory system, which the team is going to put together for their grants. The one above this is a material weakness, which means even with an internal control system in place, it would not have been caught. That is not what this is. So this is the second tier down. It's still critical enough to bring it to your attention and also report a corrective action to the state.
Were some of these corrective pieces of your action plan already in place and just not utilized effectively, or are these new actions within the corrective plan?
So the different divisions have different levels or responsibilities when it comes to the grant reporting. So I'm here to support because at the end of the day, finance is responsible for all the grant reporting. However, we allow the great team at health centers to manage their own grants, do their own reporting, and one of the, I think it was bullet 3, doing documentation of extensions. That was a lesson learned last year. If you may recall, we didn't have a copy of an extension approved, and so that is one that they're going to do, and then also taking inventory. The grants team within finance, we do have an inventory of all the grants we're responsible for, and so we are going to do a better job of supporting and partnering with the divisions that have different levels of responsibility. So we're all on the same page and doing the same actions.
Was there any negative impact from this deficiency to the county, or was it a finding before a negative outcome happened?
There was no negative impact. So the grants were actually due July 30th. It was discovered early August that they weren't submitted, so they were immediately within 2 weeks, those reports were returned and submitted appropriately.
I appreciate that, and your guys' hard work in bringing this transparency forward. Even if we don't like it, it's important to have that transparency. I'm hoping, though, in the future we can have less of these. Thank you.
Yes, and the two new things for us, anyway. You have, where historically this has not been an issue, I think we weren't taking a look at it. So now there's going to be a checkpoint within the division itself, and then there's also one at the director's office. So those are new protocols that we'll be using to make sure that we're asking the question far in advance of any particular incident that might occur. And that's what we weren't doing up to this point, because we hadn't had any findings in the past.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I can't even imagine how many deadlines and dates throughout the county that we have that we actually do meet, right? So, you know, when you have a onesie, twosie, I don't want to dismiss that and say that's good, right? We only have 2, you know, it could be worse. But where I'm getting at is that I know in my business, just on what was due, almost every day of the month, there was something we had to submit or pay or whatnot, let alone managing 50 projects, which was the other side of it. But my question is there software, and is there software that can flag these things in advance of the deadline? Is that literally just more isolated in departments as to what all the deadlines are that any division or office of this county is? Because it's got to be just hundreds of deadlines a day, right?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
We do not have a software that can do that timing. That would be an interesting effort. Every single one of these hundreds of grants could be, put in there with their due dates. So that is something to look at. And we do have possibly an opportunity with our current ERP system, PeopleSoft, that we'll look into. As this year, one of our tasks is to look into what are other opportunities that we can use the system for. And one of them is a grant, but we need to see what that would entail. And absolutely, if it had a daily dinger to remind us, that would be beautiful.
Well, I mean, I cheat. I use some systems, for example, I have a few different calendars, but I use one calendar, just like if something new comes up. Naturally, I remember that on this day, I got to do this, on this day, I got to pay that bill, but there are the unique ones that if I don't want to freak, so I just plug in my calendar, and I get a little buzz on my calendar, okay, I got 3 days to get that in, so, there's ways of cheating, right? There are tools out there and software that we can,
And we're trying to be real careful not to have duplicate systems with what county finance, as we become one county, and we're kind of evolving as a county and there, but there is a real simple one that we'll be looking at. We have a contracts database, and so we'll be adding a column on when the due dates for reporting will be, and that's what we'll use as our cheat sheet or our tickler file to say we need to be asking the question. So that'll be part of ours, but that's a real basic system. It's not a real sophisticated system that would tie to the financial system at this point.
Yeah, since being in business, I still have nightmares of missing a deadline.
Yes, and this one was, I think if it hadn't not been 3 out of 5, there was only 5 total reports on this one, and I think if it hadn't been 3, it may not have reached the level of the dais today. But it was 3 out of 5, so that's why you're hearing from us today. And they happened to turn all those in those 3 at the same time. Oh, we missed it, turned in three reports, and so we hit the threshold. So it's an important, everything that's been said, we totally agree with. It's important. We should be on top of it. I hate being here in front of you saying that we've missed the mark, but so we'll take it very seriously. We'll work on it. But it was 3 reports that went in, about, I think, a little less than 30 days late. So, but it's important stuff. So,
thanks.
Yep. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thanks for everything you guys do, because I want to point out, this isn't a negative thing at all. Frankly, I look at it as a way to improve best practices, and that's standards that guide the courses of action in a given situation. So the fact that we even find something, it gives us an opportunity for success that I think we have to recognize. Because as you said, Rod, there's now some other protocols in place because of this, and that's going to be a best practice. And that's what's important about this. It's not supposed to be a gotcha. It's really supposed to be more of continuous improvement of how we do things. And that's why they're not significant. I mean, there's the word that says, oh, significant, but what it really is significant to help us move forward with how we manage things. So I see this as a positive, not a negative. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any further questions on this? Gary, we just accept the update, is that correct?
We'll have a consent agenda item for you that will come back in 2 weeks
Okay.
for formal approval.
Seeing no objections, thank you for your hard work on this.
Thank you.
I do want to acknowledge staff. So we had 0, the good news on the audit, we had 0 over expenditures this year. That's where a department inadvertently overspends its budget authority. This is only the second time that's happened in 15 years.
Wow.
Both under Elizabeth's leadership, by the way. Second time we had 0 over expenditures for a $1.7 billion budget. That's amazing.
Wow.
So that's a win.
Wow.
Great success.
Thank
Well done,
you.
team.
Thank you. Yay.
Thank you. All right, next, advisory board and commission appointments. Tony, go ahead, please.
Commissioners, you probably know this. We have a forest. That forest is managed by a team that is advised by the Forest Advisory Board. That Forest Advisory Board has 5 openings on it due to term expirations, 1 member resignation, and 2 ongoing vacancies. Due to technical requirements, the members of this board must be professional foresters or have professional forestry experience. Through a recruitment process, 3 applications were received, 3 are recommended for appointment, 2 currently serve on the board, 1 would be a new appointment. That recommendation is Molly McKnight to a 2nd term, Dan Green to a 3rd term, and Mark Rasmussen to a 1st term.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved that we approve Molly McKnight, Dan Green, and Mark Rasmussen for the County Board of Forestry. I want to say before we vote on this, I've known Mark Rasmussen since the end of the 1980s. And when I saw his name on here, and I thought to myself, that can't be the same Mark Rasmussen. And sure enough, it is. That person has more credibility than anybody in the state of Oregon on forestry issues. I've worked with him for many, many years. We are very, very lucky to have him. And obviously, he's a Clackamas County resident, correct? I was thrilled, totally thrilled. He brings some gravitas at a time when we desperately, desperately need that. I'm not sure who was first.
You stole my thunder a little bit, Chair, as I reviewed the packet and saw Molly McKnight, Dan Green, actually all of our members on this board, the resumes, oh my God, like we're well represented in this board. This, in my opinion, just by pure objectivity, by looking at the qualifications, might be the most qualified members of our community serving on an ABC board, period. And and the new one is Mark. I saw his resume and I'm looking at this. He's a forest economist, a principal with Mason, Bruce, and Gerard, and natural resource consulting firm headquartered in Portland. He has a lot of expertise in forest management, planning, forest policy, economics, and evaluation. He is often a witness expert to testify on when they need a professional within the court of law. Federal, state, tribal, private forest lands, he's got quite a bit of experience. Land counties over 20 years. He's been a planner. He's worked with the U.S. Forest Service, Policy and Programs Analyst, Forest Products Association of the Forest Economists, and the Timber Data Company. He has his education is in this within college, and his graduate level work is within this. He went to the University of Utah. He lives in West Linn, very close to here. He even is an active Boy Scout volunteer with the troops over there across the river in West Linn. His resume is quite impressive, along with, I don't want to take anything away from the other applicants, but everybody on this board advising us on this critical issues around forestry, which I know Commissioner Scholl is very deeply involved in and probably works with these individuals. I'm really glad that we're well represented here, and when we get advisement, we're getting really good advisement from this board, so thank you. I just wanted to point that out. I was incredibly impressed with the recruitment and the quality of candidates, and welcome aboard, Mark. We're super happy to have you helping us out in this capacity.
Yeah, well said. And Mark Rasmussen is a new member, and by talking about him, of course, we acknowledge the other members as well, but I was just very pleased to see that. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, since we're saying great things about people, Molly McKnight and Dan Green were actually past employees in forestry in this county and always served us really well. And Dan's my son's godfather, and his wife is my son's godmother, so we're very close. And as soon as all the hurly-burly of what's been going on in terms of elections and all that kind of stuff, we're going to have dinner together. So
Another brunch at
another
Nonalina's.
brunch at Nonalina's. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Zavas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary.
One more advisory board. Tony, go ahead.
Next up, the Veterans Advisory Council, staffed by Health, Housing, Human Services, currently has 6 openings on their commission due to term expirations and resignations. 19 total members are allowed to 2-year terms. Through a recruitment process, 3 applications were received, 2 are recommended for appointment. All 3 applicants would be new to the board. The recommendation of those 2 members is Dan Miner to a first term and Austin Hanson to a first term.
I will take a motion. I'm also looking for the qualification of these 2 new people. I read it earlier, now it's not here. What happened to us? What happened to the resumes?
I see it in my.
Okay, you can address them. But again, and I don't know if Mark wants to address him, being a veteran yourself, again, really, really qualified military people who are serving on our Veterans Committee.
Yep.
I will entertain a motion.
I move to appoint Dan Miner and Austin Hanson to the Veterans Advisory Council.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved to appoint Dan Miner and Austin Hanson to the Veterans Advisory Council, and Commissioner Scholl has seconded the motion. Commissioner West, you're up.
Yeah, it's, we have a retired colonel as one of the, and a business owner. He's done a lot of work with the Canby School District. He is, Dan Miner is very qualified. I'm just really excited that he is jumping in and continuing to advocate for the men and women that served our country and often sacrificed a lot and didn't always come home the same as when they left. And so we really appreciate not only his leadership on this board, but the leadership that he showed as an officer in the armed services. We have a Navy man that is also joined, and that is Austin Hanson. Lots of work with the nonprofit sector within the Portland metro area for the veterans. You can tell this is a passion of his. So I'm excited that he's bringing that passion here to Clackamas County. He's connected to John Badillo, who is a Wilsonville veteran, who I'm quite fond of, and is a friend of mine in Wilsonville, who has really dedicated a large portion of his retired life from an officer to helping veterans and doing community service work. I believe John Badillo has won Citizen of the Year in Wilsonville. And so if he is a protege or a colleague of John Badillo, he is coming from a great place to bring a lot of great stuff to Clackamas County. They do so much that goes unrecognized. I mean, so much that nobody ever sees, but they really do have a passion for this population. And so I'm really happy that they're going to be advising us. We are doing good today, Chair.
We are. Tony, why aren't there resumes on here? I read them yesterday on my other device, and they're not on here now.
Madam Chair, we do not post their resumes and background information available publicly. We distribute that via email to the board. And so what's available on the website doesn't include that because it includes things like their address and their phone numbers.
But I saw it on the website yesterday. That is the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
I read all of their background when I was looking at them, just like I was looking at Mark Rasmussen's and the others. It was there yesterday, so that's why I knew how well qualified they were. And
I
now
will
it's
look
not
into
there.
that. I will look into that, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, please take the poll.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary.
Next, review of your board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, May 23rd, 2024, 10 a.m. You'll have all the consent agenda items you discussed today, your regular course of business. I understand you may have a presentation item that Commissioner West will discuss with you shortly. If you have any questions on any item, please let me know prior to Thursday, and staff and I are happy to answer it for you. Final item today is Commissioner Communications.
Thank you, Gary. I'm going to start with Commissioner West. He has a unique request, and I allowed it because it has to do with a proclamation for the month of May. And next week, we have Budget Week, and I consider this fairly vanilla request. And he has put before us, the governor has put a proclamation that May is Aviation Month. And Marion County did it, and another county?
They just did it, Marion County.
just did it.
I know Marion did, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, and this has to do with the Aurora Airport. Whereas Aurora Airport is not located in Clackamas County, there are more Clackamas County businesses located at the Aurora Airport than I believe Marion County businesses. So it is an economic hub for us, and it's important that we support it. And Commissioner West has brought forth this particular proclamation, and then I also read one yesterday that the governor sent, and it was a little bit more vanilla. I mean, what I mean by vanilla is, in the Marion County proclamation, there are items in here that are only unique to Marion County
Yeah.
that we obviously would not say. So Commissioner West, I'm going to let you go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The governor kind of actually kicked this off with, I thought, a really wonderful proclamation about recognizing the importance, not only just to industry and transportation and infrastructure that the aviation plays in Oregon, but she really also touched on its unique history in Oregon. I think that I actually wanted, since we may not have all read it, I'm going to touch on something within her proclamation, that Oregon has a rich aviation history, including being the first state in the union to create an aviation department. I didn't know that until the governor sent this out. And to issue licenses to pilots and aircraft. Currently, Oregon has 4,500 registered general aviation aircraft, 10,800 licensed pilots, and 97 public use airports, of which one is in Clackamas County. There are a couple in Marion County, and one of the ones in Marion County is right on our border, so it impacts us directly, the Aurora Airport. There are numerous aircraft manufacturing and maintenance facilities in the state, including those responsible for producing over 75% of the world's heavy lift helicopters, which is a crazy number, and serving as the largest manufacturer of kit planes globally. Oregon is a national leader in the growth of unmanned aircraft systems, and I believe some of that industry is also in Clackamas County, with 4 test ranges in the state. Now, Marion County, who we have a fantastic relationship with, did put forth a proclamation also proclaiming May as Aviation Month, and I think that there's ways that we can just tweak a couple things within this, make it a little more Clackamas County centric, that we could also join suit by acknowledging a vital industry in Clackamas County. It employs thousands of people. It impacts many of our job creators and businesses here in Clackamas. I think that would just be a nice thing to do for this industry and to show our appreciation. And I also, I just personally remember having an affinity for this group as a young boy with my grandpa going to the air shows, watching the Blue Angels, going out to another public airport, the Hillsborough Airport, we have the Spruce Goose here. We have air museums are quite popular. So we do have a rich culture in this, and I'm hoping that this board will consider putting forth a similar proclamation from the Board of County Commissioners here in Clackamas, really kind of championing not only what the governor has done, but with I like to call our sister county, Marion, that shares a border and an airport with us. So I've given you guys all a copy of that, and then I also have a copy of the governor's proclamation also.
Before I go to the other commissioners, how are we going to handle this? Obviously, this is not in a form for us to pass today. Gary, what's your recommendation?
We would add it to this Thursday's business meeting if you agreed, and staff would update the proclamation so we could post it online by the end of today.
And then all 5 commissioners could have an electronic signature if we vote on it on
It'll
Thursday.
just be you signing it as a resolution, Chair.
I have a kind of a silly question because I don't know. When you talk about unmanned aircraft systems, is that the system or is that the drone?
That's a full range of unmanned aircraft from small reconnaissance drones up to attack
Wow.
UAVs.
Oh, okay, so it's the whole range of it. That's pretty important. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, a couple comments and a question. Love this. I was at an airport almost every day of my life. So Naval Air Station nearby Long Beach Airport, which is actually in Long Beach, or LA County, but I live in Orange County, so I just crossed over, like Aurora is. It was very close to the border. Long Beach, one of my favorite airports, actually. So I have an affinity, again, growing up and being in airports almost every day, to this, so awesome. But I was wondering if we were going to weave Malino Airport into
Yes.
this. So that's okay.
We talked about, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't hear the word Malino, so I just want to make sure we weave our Clackamas County element in that. But I just also want to acknowledge that we have a lot of Clackamas County employees that work at Aurora Airport.
A lot.
And it's a huge employment base in and of itself. So I just want to say that while I think of realize Aurora's in Marion County, it's a brother or sister to us as well, so.
Life Flight is stationed out of Clackamas County, but its planes are at the Aurora Airport. So as like one of the preeminent emergency flight services, its headquarters is in Wilsonville with its planes flying out of Aurora. So that's
Helicopters too?
their helicopters and jets are coming out of there. Columbia Helicopters is also there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, and in Art Road, the south side of Art Road is Marion County, the north side of Art Road is Clackamas County, so that's right where the border
Right
is.
there.
That's how close, you can't get any closer.
No, you cannot. Yeah.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I'm willing to support this because, I did all that work with the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition, which really includes a large portion of the aerospace industry as well. And drones are one of their big things for the military, and they keep doing that. I also know that, again, it's an economic driver in the county because even though it's in Marion County, there's a cluster there that impacts us. And I'm fine with this, but I think we need to make it clear, which some of our neighbors in Wilsonville, this is not some kind of a, advocating that we are going to be expanding anything right now, because they are very, very sensitive to this. So I got to say it because people are sensitive to it. This really needs to be framed as more of supporting the aviation sector and aviation in general. And that's why it's important to talk about Malino. And I'd also like to see if there are other airstrips around. I know of a number in our county that are in use all the time with other recreational folks who use it in the air. So it has to be broader so we don't mire ourselves into, some kind of a discussion that could, go negative. But I'm okay with it if we broaden it. I think that's an important piece.
I think that's a good point, and considering that the governor initiated this.
Yep, that's
so
true.
I think we just build off of that, not put that in the verbiage somewhere, and then we're
That
just
was my
building off
point,
that
that
and making
this
it.
is-
Yeah,
Or
that's
as
what I
this
want
is-
to, that's what I want to make sure, because I'm just seeing that, people have a tendency to misconstrue things, and what we're really talking about is a traded sector business opportunities, that aviation is a huge piece of it. We've already worked with the aviation industry in this county, and a good number of the folks that work in it are a member of the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition that was incubated in this county. So I just want to get some clarity out there, so our intentions aren't seen as
Commissioner
that's
West.
all.
Yeah, there is Malino, there's a number of private airstrips within the county, there's a number of industry. We can give the credit great due for promoting this and highlighting this. I think this is good for business. And I will say this, Wilsonville as a whole is not anti-Aurora
No,
Airport. They do realize its significance to a number of
Okay.
the major businesses and industrial companies that actually do business in Wilsonville because of its proximity to the airport. There's no need to talk about runway expansion or anything like that. I
That's-
don't think that's the goal here.
I don't think it is either, but I just can see what I.
Yeah, I hear, and
Yeah, I could just
from that-
see.
Yeah, but I was just on that council. I live in
Yeah.
Wilsonville. I think that there's really not a lot to get controversial
good.
here. But the goal really is to take the month of May. It'd actually be fun to make something out of this, going forward. But take the month of May and really just highlight a very important industry with infrastructure that allows our county to help be a place where businesses want to do business. We are open for business and we need this infrastructure. And I think it's a lot of fun. All of us probably have amazing memories about airplanes
Oh,
and
yeah.
the wonder that they bring, and I'm still in wonder of aircraft. So I can assure you, I think Wilsonville will not squawk.
Okay,
at
that's
this.
what I'm just trying to, I'm trying to be adaptive, remember.
I hear you.
People will misconstrue things even when, and I do have fond memories. The Air National Guard gave me they didn't take me off the ground, but I got to go on their jet, just
Yeah.
kind of on the ground at very fast speeds. That was one of the most fun things I've ever done, so.
Yes,
okay.
this is supportive aviation because Oregon has many notable moments and accomplishments. So Commissioner West, you're in charge of this.
I'm on it.
All right.
With Gary. Thanks, Gary.
Up next, Commissioner Schrader.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a number of things I have been writing down, and one of the things is that in terms of workforce, there's two things I've been looking at, and I have yet to talk to Tim Cook. So Tim, bear with me with this. The Clackamas Community College has a early childhood learning piece, and I have found out that Deschutes County not only trains people in early childhood education in their community college, they also integrate it with a business model. So they're also teaching people how to actually open a daycare business. And I was going to try and approach their small business center And I was going to try and, approach the community college and see if that might be a nice way to integrate training people to not only run the centers in early childhood, but also get the business acumen they need should they move to open up something, and that would be something that would increase the capacity for childcare in our county. And so I'm always looking at ideas from other places, and this seemed to be a good one. The other thing I've been looking at is I had an opportunity to talk to the Carpenters Union the other day and found out that in California, there is a community college that is integrating apprenticeship programs from the unions with community college education in a way that's pretty interesting. So an apprentice, a person can become a journeyman, and their community college offers credit for that, and then they also enable them to take additional courses towards a certificate or whatever to move them up the prosperity ladder. I don't know how that would work here, but it's something, an idea I find intriguing. And I think that that's going to be an important piece of what we do as we move forward with making sure people are skilled up for good jobs. And then this afternoon, there's going to be the Clackamas County Business Alliance is going to have a talk about the value of traded sector agriculture in Clackamas County. I was going to try and get to that one and see what's
next
going on
week.
with that.
That's today.
Okay, and also, in the spirit of a little fun here, Ben, because you brought up a resolution, it is a serious one. It's Mental Health Awareness Month as well. Memorial Day is coming up. It's Nurses, Teachers, and Receptionists Month for folks that work in schools. In a more lighthearted way, it's also National Strawberry Month. This is my favorite. International Doodle Month. Okay, I have a Labradoodle, so it's International Doodle. It's National Bee Month, and I got in trouble with Gary for trying to institute No Mow May, and you had to don't mow anything, let the bees come. He's like, we can't do that. And I was like, well, all right, we'll work on it. Remember that? I got hauled into your office and got my hand slapped for that one. It's also Arthritis Awareness Month, Better Sleep Month, and National Walking Month. So May seems to be the big place that we're here. Now, those are fun things, and some of them are extremely meaningful, Memorial Day and mental health awareness and those other and arthritis. But I'm glad that we're framing one for a traded sector businesses, plural, that inform not only what happens in our county, but our neighbors to the south.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, last week I was in Washington DC on our JPAC transportation trip, and I'll speak more about it tomorrow, but I thought I would on Thursday, but I thought I'd just plant one seed that came to light to me in a new way, and that was, and I'll digress a little bit, the state of California has been 1 to 2 to 3 years ahead of the rest of the nation when it comes to air quality regulations and their influence in the automotive market to adapt to the California standards has been more so than ever before, as opposed to what we call the 49 states. So, you know, back in the day, you could buy a car and it was only legal to be sold in 49 states. Today, because the federal government has had such influence that the automakers are now saying, we got to get ahead of it. So all cars sold are being made. So in that light, as that came to be more emphasis this weekend in conversations, is that the Highway Trust Fund, we had a national expert come and give us a little presentation about that and really brought light to the Highway Trust Fund, the Federal Highway Trust Fund, as well as the states, and saying that, you know, obviously the typical decline is as a result of gas mileage declining, but also as a result of inflation. So now you have two factors that are just devaluing or hurting the Highway Trust Fund. So it's got two crises. One, gas mileage. Second one, inflation. And I asked the question, how much of that inflation was a result of COVID, and how much of that inflation is because of the influx of all the money, transportation money for the big transportation bill, knowing that there's only so many workers, there's only so much concrete, rock, gravel, steel. The demand is higher, supply and demand theory, that means the price goes up. Didn't have a quiet answer because he's not an economist, but what also came to light as I'm thinking about this is that there's a third crisis coming that's going to devastate the Highway Trust Fund, state and local, and that is that with hydrogen and electric vehicles coming out and being mandated by a date certain, and California's accelerated that date. That's my point. They've accelerated that date. That means that there's going to be a day here very shortly where no more gas, the demand for gasoline is going to go this way. That means our revenues go in the tank. So the crisis is coming to replace that funding mechanism. So just want to alert you to the third crisis that we've got, and that is why that funding discussion that we need to have here locally, statewide, nationally. And I made sure that our congressmen and our senators knew that. And I said, it's incumbent on all of us. We did it. Government did it. By passing this regulation that no more fossil fuel powered cars, state and federal, that it is a consequence, and I'm not sure that everyone who voted for that understood the consequence of shutting that down and what it does to the Highway Trust Fund. So I'll talk more about that on Thursday, I think.
Good. I look forward to more updates on your trip. I really do, because it's important we all bring back that information. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, thank you. You know, and also, although California was the first to, in their legislature, to pass a date, I think it's 2035, after which time you won't be able to buy a gas-powered car in the state of California. You need to do a EV or whatever is coming out. Toyota's working on their hydrogen engine. That's got some promises. But, you know, in February, I think it was, the state of Washington passed the same restriction, 2035, no more sales of new gas-powered cars in the state of Washington. So tonight's the County Parks Advisory Board meeting. Tomorrow, Metro State of the Region. And then I'll be scrubbing through the budget binders tomorrow afternoon and Thursday and Friday, getting ready for next week. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Two commissioners are going to that luncheon today regarding farming, and thank you. Bring back information. I'd like to hear that. I'm not able to go today. And Commissioner Schrader and I are working on some farming initiatives. What was interesting that came up on the economic channel that I listened to about 6 o'clock every morning, I turn it on. There's this publicly traded stock, and I remember the name, and you'll know why. It's called Gladstone. And this is a publicly traded stock in farm investment and food production across America. And I didn't really know that you could do that publicly traded, but it's a very good idea. Because if we don't get some type of infusion of cash into these farms, we're not going to feed ourselves. And that's what we're after, is feeding ourselves. And the man who giving the report, the announcer says, "And do you like fresh blueberries?" And he names all these products. And I thought that was a very interesting concept. I hadn't heard that before. But if you look at the high cost of farmland, you look at the high cost of the equipment and labor, something has to be done to alleviate that pressure. So I was pretty positive about that. Yesterday, there was kind of an impromptu meeting with Metro yet again on their desire to take the supported housing services tax and do something extended beyond the 10 years, and we're in year 3, and they had poll results. I believe the poll was a push poll. You can tell by the questions. We have asked and asked and asked for the questions and the crosstabs and the data so we can make our own analysis. But they seem to think that it's a huge win because in the area, 58% of the people say, oh yeah, we'll do something different. We'll do this more. We'll do this more. But commissioners, as we know, if you're going to put it out for a vote on any type of increase on taxes, and which this is, I don't care how they write the ballot question, you're going to need to be polling in the high 60s to 70s in order for it to pass. And some of the comments made by the pollster were absolutely alarming. And it's the same pollster that Metro has been using for many years, that Lynn Peterson used personally for her elections. Just saying. And he was extremely derogatory when he was asked specifically about Washington County and Clackamas County opposing this going forward. He was very derogatory about this board. And that's the pollster, and that's what's feeding this machine. And I'm not going to say it here now because it really makes my blood bubble. In fact, Catherine Harrington wouldn't even attend that yesterday. Jessica Vega Peterson didn't even attend that yesterday. And that it's becoming very divisive, and they're going to push and push and push. And I really want to see the questions because they say homelessness is by far the most critical issue, and I believe they polled within the metro boundary area, okay. Homelessness is by far, by all these percentage points. But I want to know how they ask the question. Because the number 3 concern on this is cost of living. And what does cost of living mean? So I think if you would have worded the question, because what I'm hearing, seriously, I'm hearing economics is really on the top level of a lot of people here in the county and in Oregon and nationwide. And that's why we were so popular when we worked to stop tolling, because that was a huge economic issue. Measure 110 can be said is a huge economic issue. So, like I say, we're still going at it. If I am blessed enough to receive the documents, I'll send the crosstabs and questions on to you folks for your own analysis. So, it's always frustrating. It's always a wonderful time with Metro. But, Commissioners, today is Election Day. Go home, be healthy, hearty, be with your families. And tomorrow's a new day, regardless of what happens. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.